I wanted to talk to you guys about one thing that I basically suddenly came to realization today about XRP, Ripple, stablecoins, institutions, and what's really important to them. There's a market that Ripple is cornering that is going to be one of the most important aspects of crypto and this whole digital finance revolution to come. I'm going to talk about that in this video, but quickly I wanted to talk about this analysis that someone's pointed out on social media. Crypto Joe, I believe, is on X, but you can also see him on CoinMarketCap, and it says August monthly close is in. Since December 2024, XRP has been ranging sideways, not a single monthly close above $3.03, which is quite interesting. Of course, if you zoom in into the actual picture itself, you can see some slight spikes up and a spike up there. Those are the two times that XRP approached the all-time highs. Even here, there's a little spike here. But is it me, or does this look like a reverse or inverse head and shoulders pattern on the monthly close chart? Not financial advice, your own research, but it looks like we're about to epically break out, guys. So shout out to Crypto Joe for that perhaps unintentional demonstration of how XRP is about to moon pretty hard. Anyhow, on to today's video. I've been reading Ripple's latest press release, or should I say their blog posts, and I have two massive takeaways from this blog post. The very first one is that the digital asset custody solution is a must for institutions. It's not a nice to have. It's not a convenience. It's not a thing that they can opt in or not. This is something that they must do as institutions. And I'm going to point that out in a minute why. Another thing that I realized from this blog post is how imminent everything is on a proper scale. Now, a lot of people don't think long-term enough. But even if you don't think long-term, if you're thinking short-term, this stuff is very imminent. It is at our doorstep. Now, according to this, 10% of the world's assets, 10% of the world's assets, that's insane, are expected to be tokenized by 2030. Now, 2030 used to seem like a far distant date, but now it's 2025, and 2025 is drawing to a close now. We're about to go into Q4 of 2025, and that'll be wrapping up. Now, 2030 is going to be in the next bull cycle. So if this whole Bitcoin cycle persists, the next bull market is going to happen around 2030. Okay. So if you think back to the global lockdowns that we just had, that was 4 to 5 years ago now. 4 to 5 years from now, we're going to arrive at 2030. That's how imminent this stuff is. Now, the lockdowns seem just like yesterday to us, right? This is going to seem just like tomorrow. In a blink of an eye, this is going to happen. And if 10% of the world's assets are going to be tokenized by 2030, what's going to happen is we're going to see a gradual, then up. So now is the critical time to get in. If you're not getting it now, you are running out of time, especially if you're an institution. You are running out of time. And when that does happen, by 2030, 10% of the world's asset tokenized, all of these institutions that have tokenized these assets are going to require a digital asset custody solution. And we're not talking about, run-of-the-mill stuff by random companies that pop out in the middle of nowhere. They're going to need enterprise grade, highly regulated government level stuff, right? They're going to need services that are akin to stuff that they are used to at the moment, with big bang vaults and stuff like this, right? I watched a movie over the weekend called The Pickup by Eddie Murphy, right? I don't know if you guys have seen that, no spoilers. And there's this scene here where, he's driving along with his whatever, and then these guys are trying to commandeer this truck that they're driving. That's because, of course, the truck, let me just pause it there. That truck is an armored truck, and it's used to transfer cash from location to location, right? Or expensive high value products from location to location. And that those are criminals trying to hijack it because they they need access to the truck, they want to get the money, whatever. I'm not going to tell you why they're doing that because that's going to be a spoiler. But the point is, these solutions were real world solutions to real world issues, right? People had physical cash, physical gold, expensive stuff, jewelry that needed to be transported from one place to the other. And then they needed security in its storage, and even banks needed places to put their gold to back the the currency that they were printing. Governments needed enterprise grade, impermeable, unbreakable storage in the real world. So we had all of these giant underground solutions in the ground, places in Guantanamo, kilometers down into the Earth's core, all sorts of crazy solutions just to prevent them from being raided by these criminals, right? And then you have safety deposit boxes for, smaller entities like persons with lots of money. People would store jewelry. People have even been storing their passcodes, their cryptocurrency, crypto phrases, your key phrases, in boxes and putting them away in safety deposit boxes for posterity's sake. Now, all of that moving into the digital world and the tokenization world is going to need a digital version of this stuff, a blockchain-based version of this stuff, which is why the likes of, Ripple come in, and all of these custody enterprises that they're embarking on. One of which, of course, is Metaco in Europe, which is basically cornering the market there. Of course, Coinbase and other services are stepping up to that as well. But we're talking about, custody to protect values like $16 trillion by 2030. That's a colossal amount of money. And, these guys are going to be needing enterprise grade solutions to store their safety keys, their security keys. That's what they're storing now, because everything is now blockchain based, right? Those keys, were they to get into the hands of the wrong people, can cause catastrophic damage, fall of entire companies, destruction of businesses, etc. So this is going to be a key requirement come 2030 and beyond. Now, this article talks about, or this blog post by Ripple talks about 2030, 16 trillion, 10% of the world's assets. But what about 2035? What about 2040? Are we looking at 100%? Are we looking at 70% of the world's assets? How much money are we talking about then? What kind of custody we will be requiring? And obviously by then, technology might have moved on a little bit. We'll be talking about quantum computing and quantum blockchain and quantum storage. But at the end of the day, these same companies that are working on securing these keys are going to be the ones up in their technology. So the XRP Ledger is in for some big time use come 2030, because the XRP Ledger is intricately linked to a lot of the custody programs, custody solutions that Ripple is providing in Europe. For instance, you have collaborations on the way with Societe Generale and with the Ripple USD stablecoin custody system. You have obviously Metaco and some others in other parts of the world, in Dubai, in Asia, etc., etc. SBI is another one. So if you want to learn more about this, actually, there's a really good PDF that was put out to familiarize yourself about the importance and the relevance of on-chain asset tokenization. And this one talks about crypto winter and gives an example of what happened with the Terra Luna crash, etc., and how custody could help out in such a situation. I'm going to link all of this stuff obviously in the description as usual for your perusal. But this is a critical thing that a lot of people aren't thinking about. Everyone's thinking about the actual money in the tokenization of real world assets, which is going to be huge. Everyone's talking about financial payment systems moving on to blockchain, which is going to be huge. Everyone's talking about the takeover of your salary payments and store of value and stuff. All of this activity is going to rely on epically good institutional grade custody services, and that is being absolutely dominated at the moment by Ripple, and of course with competition from the likes of Coinbase and some of the other ones. Not financial advice. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.